Everyone got a letter from the HOA. Every single house on my street had one taped to their mailbox. Except mine. At first, I thought maybe it was a mistake. But then I saw the look on my neighbor's face. The one who always waves too perfectly. She smiled again that day. But her eyes didn't. And that's when I realized. They didn't forget me. They were planning something. Hey everyone. Welcome back to HOA Stories. My name's Ethan, and I live in one of those picture-perfect neighborhoods. Manicured lawns. Fresh white fences. Smiling neighbors who pretend to care about your weekend barbecue. Yeah, those neighborhoods. And like most of you watching right now, I can't stand the HOA. If you've ever been fined for parking the wrong way, or told your grass isn't green enough, then hit that subscribe button, because we're exposing it all here. Type BOOO HOA in the comments if you've ever had to deal with one, and share this video with that one friend who still thinks their HOA isn't that bad. Alright, let's get into it. It started on a Tuesday morning. Quiet. Too quiet. Usually, I'd hear the sprinklers, the sound of garage doors, or that annoying little dog down the street. But that morning, nothing. I walked outside to grab the newspaper. Yeah, I still get one. And that's when I saw them. White envelopes. One on every single mailbox down the street. Neatly taped. Stamped with the red HOA logo like a warning mark. My neighbor, Mrs. Bradley, was already out front in her robe, holding her letter like it was a bomb. "Did you get yours, Ethan?" she asked. Her voice was shaky. I glanced at my mailbox. Empty. "Nope," I said, pretending it didn't bother me. But it did. Because in this neighborhood, getting ignored is worse than getting fined. By noon, the street looked like a crime scene. People whispering on lawns. Neighbors standing in groups, clutching papers. Some looked scared. Some angry. I walked over to one of them, Paul, the guy with the perfect lawn and zero personality. "What's it about?" asked. He looked at me like I should already know. "It's a compliance warning," he said. "They're increasing surveillance. Something about property inspections next week." I frowned. Why didn't I get one? Paul didn't answer. He just gave me that HOA smile, tight lips, empty eyes, and walked away. That's when it hit me. Maybe it wasn't a mistake. By evening, everyone had shut their blinds early. The street was dark before 8 p.m. I walked my dog, Scout, and couldn't help but notice every single porch light flicker as I passed. Like they were watching. When I came back, there was a folded note tucked under my doormat. No envelope. No name. Just 2 words. "We know." I froze. I looked around. Nothing but shadows and that quiet hum from the streetlights. Who leaves a note like that? What did they know? I went inside and locked the door. Scout growled at the window once, then stopped. I checked the porch. Empty again. The next morning, I went to the HOA office, a small building behind the clubhouse. Inside, it smelled like fake flowers and printer ink. Behind the desk sat Carla, the HOA secretary. Perfect hair, fake smile. The kind of woman who says, "Sweetheart," before sending you a $200 fine. "Hey, Carla," I said. "Everyone on my street got a letter yesterday. Except me. Any idea why?" She looked up slowly. Then smiled, the kind of smile that hides something. "Oh, Ethan," she said softly. "Some things are handled differently." "What's that supposed to mean?" asked. But she just turned to her computer and started typing, ignoring me like I wasn't even there. I left. And as I walked out, I noticed something odd. A stack of letters on the counter behind her. All sealed. All stamped with the HOA logo. And the top one had my name on it. I waited until nightfall, when the office lights went off and the clubhouse emptied out. I snuck around back, flashlight in hand, heart pounding like I was breaking some suburban law. I peeked through the blinds. The stack of letters was gone. But on the desk, in plain sight, was a printed list. Title, Phase 3, Homeowner Evaluations. And next to my name, written in red ink, pending, Do not notify. My stomach dropped. Why was I pending? Why was I not supposed to be notified? I heard a door creak inside. Footsteps. I ducked behind the side wall as a light flickered on. Through the window, I saw her, Carla, holding her phone, whispering. He was here. Yeah, I think he knows. Then she turned toward the window. And for half a second, I swear she looked right at me. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound made me jump, every creak, every dog bark. At one point I thought I saw headlights stop in front of my house. But when I looked again, gone. Around 3 a.m., I went out to check the mailbox. Still empty. But taped underneath it, almost invisible, was another note. You weren't supposed to live here. I froze in place. My hand shook as I tore it down. Who would write that? What did it mean, I wasn't supposed to live here? I looked around. Porch lights. Curtains moving slightly. A door closing somewhere. They were all awake. Watching me. And that's when I realized. This wasn't about a letter anymore. This was about me. Maybe it was something I'd done. Maybe someone on the HOA board had a reason. Or maybe they'd chosen me for something else entirely. But whatever it was, I was about to find out. Because I wasn't going to wait for their next move. What do you think the HOA is hiding from me? Do you think it's just a warning, or something way darker? Tell me in the comments. I'm reading every single one. Eyes. I wasn't going to wait for their next move. If they were watching me, I was going to watch them back. The next morning, I woke up early, earlier than usual. Coffee in hand, I sat by the window, pretending to scroll through my phone. But my eyes were on the street. Same houses. Same perfect lawns. Same silence. Except this time, I noticed something different. Across the street, near the oak tree, there was a small white van. Unmarked. No logo. Engine running. At first, I thought maybe it was a delivery truck. But it didn't move. For 3 hours. And when I finally stepped outside to check my mailbox again, the van's engine shut off. That's when I knew someone inside was watching me. Around noon, I decided to take a walk. Just to see if anyone followed. As I passed each house, I noticed more HOA envelopes still taped to doors. Some torn open. Some missing entirely. When I reached the end of the street, near the cul-de-sac, I saw something I'd never noticed before. A small security camera, hidden inside a birdhouse. It wasn't a regular camera either. The lens was new. Modern. The kind of thing you buy if you want to record without anyone noticing. I leaned closer, pretending to tie my shoe. It was facing my house. Of course it was. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being recorded. Watched. Measured. So I decided to test it. I turned off every light in my house, except one lamp near the front window. Then I sat in the dark corner with my phone camera open, waiting. At exactly 10:37 p.m. A flicker. A small red light blinked from the direction of the oak tree. I zoomed in through my phone, the same unmarked van. Someone was sitting inside. And they were pointing a camera at me. The next morning, I went straight to the HOA clubhouse again. I didn't care if they called me paranoid. Carla wasn't there this time. But sitting in her place was Mr. Weaver, the HOA president himself. He was an older guy, polite on the outside, but his eyes were cold, calculating. "Morning, Ethan," he said, smiling too wide. "Carla told me you had some concerns?" "Yeah," I said. "I want to know why I didn't get that letter. And I want to know why there's a van parked across from my house." He leaned back, folded his hands together like a preacher about to lie. "Oh, the letters," he said calmly. "Those were simply notices for residents involved in community adjustments." "Community adjustments?" I repeated. "What's that supposed to mean?" He smiled again. "The HOA's working on a new phase of neighborhood improvement. Some residents are being evaluated for compatibility." Compatibility? Like we were appliances or something. "What does that have to do with me?" asked. He tilted his head. "Well, Ethan, some homes were purchased under unusual terms. Sometimes people slip through the cracks." "Slip through the cracks," I said. "I bought my house like everyone else." He just stared at me and said nothing. When I walked out, I noticed something strange about the HOA office door. A small plaque next to it. It read, "Community Oversight Division, authorized personnel only." That wasn't there last week. And that's when I realized this wasn't a normal HOA anymore. That evening, I told myself I was done being scared. If they wanted to watch me, I'd give them a show. So I went outside with a beer in my hand, sat on my porch, and stared straight at the van. After a few minutes, the engine started. Then the van rolled slowly down the street, stopped at the corner, and turned out of sight. But before it disappeared completely, I saw something in the window. A flash, like a camera shutter. Later that night, I heard a knock. 3 soft taps on my front door. No doorbell, just taps. When I opened it, nobody. But on the porch floor, there was a small black USB drive in a clear plastic bag. No note this time, just the drive. I plugged it into my laptop, and what I saw made my skin crawl. It was footage of me, sitting at my window, walking my dog, taking out the trash, all from angles I didn't even know existed. Some clips were days old, some were from last night, and one of them, one that made my chest tighten, was filmed from inside my house. It showed me sleeping. I slammed the laptop shut. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely breathe. They'd been in my house. Someone had actually been inside. I checked every door, every window, every lock. Then I noticed something else. A new camera. Tiny. Hidden inside the vent above my living room. I ripped it out and smashed it on the floor. This wasn't just HOA surveillance anymore. This was something bigger. Something planned. The next day, I drove out of the neighborhood. I needed space, perspective, air that didn't smell like fake lawns and secrets. I parked near the old diner off the highway and sat there for an hour. Then I saw him, Paul, my perfect lawn neighbor, walking out of the diner with none other than Mr. Weaver. They shook hands. Weaver handed him a white envelope, and Paul smiled. I took out my phone and snapped a picture. Paul saw me through the window. His smile dropped immediately. A minute later, I got a text from an unknown number. It said, "Stop digging, Ethan." That night, I didn't go home. I slept in my truck near the old gas station, engine running, door locked. When I woke up, I drove back, ready to pack up and leave for good. But when I turned onto my street, something felt wrong. There were people outside, board members, maybe, all standing near the clubhouse with clipboards. Carla was there too, holding a megaphone, calling out names. As I got closer, she turned toward me and smiled. "Ethan," she said cheerfully, "you're just in time. We were about to start Phase 4. I stopped my car in the middle of the street. "What is Phase 4? I yelled out the window. She didn't answer, just gestured for me to come closer. Behind her, I saw a group of people wearing blue HOA vests setting up what looked like a tent, with security cameras mounted all around it. Everyone else was watching quietly. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. I didn't get out of my car. I just sat there, watching. And then I noticed something I hadn't before. Every mailbox on the street, every single one, now had a new envelope taped to it. Even mine. I got out slowly, walked over, heart pounding so hard I could barely hear my footsteps. The envelope had the HOA logo, my name, and a single red word stamped across it. Evaluation. I didn't open it. I couldn't. Because at that exact moment, every neighbor on the street turned toward me. At the same time. No blinking, no talking, just staring. And I swear to God, they all smiled. If you found a hidden camera in your own house, would you confront the HOA or play along to expose them? Drop your thoughts below. I'm curious how far you'd go, eyes. They all smiled. At once. That kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. The kind that feels rehearsed. For a second I thought maybe I was dreaming. But no. The air was too cold. The sound of my heartbeat too real. I looked around. Every neighbor on my street. Standing still. Holding those same white envelopes against their chests. No one spoke. No one blinked. Carla finally lifted her megaphone. "Residents," she said calmly. "Phase 4 is now in effect." Then she turned it off. And walked away. Just like that. Everyone else followed. Slowly. In silence. Leaving me standing alone. Holding the envelope that was never supposed to reach me. I went inside. Shut the blinds. Sat on the couch staring at it. Evaluation. Bold red letters that almost glowed under the lamp. I didn't want to open it. But I also couldn't stop myself. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Property 47B. Subject: Ethan Cross. Compliance status: inconclusive. Observation scheduled: midnight. Participation mandatory. No signature. No explanation. Just that. I laughed at first. Because honestly, what else could I do? Then I realized something worse. My house number wasn't 47B. It was 46A. Which meant this letter wasn't even mine. Or maybe it was. Midnight came fast. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. Just watched the clock tick past 11:59. At exactly 12 o'clock. Every porch light on the street turned on. Simultaneously. And then, footsteps. Multiple. Through the peephole I saw 3 people in blue HOA vests. Clipboards. Radios. They didn't knock. They used a key. My key. "Excuse me," I shouted. But they walked right in. One of them, a tall guy with thick glasses, nodded politely. "Routine evaluation," he said. "Please stay seated." I wasn't sure if I should fight or film. So I reached for my phone. The woman in front, the one with the radio, looked at me sharply. "That won't be necessary, Mr. Cross." "How do you know my name?" asked. She smiled. "We know everyone's name." They started inspecting the living room, measuring walls, taking photos, even scanning my microwave with some handheld device. "What exactly are you evaluating?" asked. "Consistency," she said. "Behavioral alignment with community standards." "What does that even mean?" No answer. After 10 minutes, they moved to the hallway. One of them opened the door to my bedroom. I stood up fast. "Hey, private area." The guy with glasses looked back. "Nothing here is private, Mr. Cross." Then they closed the door. And left without another word. No papers. No fines. Just gone. I stood there, shaking. Then my phone buzzed. A new email. No sender name. Subject line: evaluation complete. The body of the message read only: result, NON compliant, followed by a single link. I didn't click it. Not yet. The next morning, something was different outside. My mailbox was gone. Just gone. The post still there. But the box ripped off clean. I looked down the street, every other mailbox untouched. Only mine missing. On my doorstep, someone had chalk-painted a symbol. A small red triangle pointing toward my door. The same symbol printed on the top of that letter. I tried calling the police. But when I gave my address, the operator paused. Then said softly, "That property is under community management jurisdiction, sir. We can't intervene." Community management. Right. The HOA had their own little government now. Later that day, Paul stopped by. He hadn't spoken to me since the diner incident. Now he stood on my porch like nothing happened, holding a cup of coffee. "Hey, neighbor," he said. "You okay?" I looked him up and down. "You working for them?" He chuckled. "Working with them, maybe. What's that supposed to mean?" He leaned in. "Listen, Ethan, There are things about this neighborhood you don't understand. This place was never about homes. It's about control. Some people qualify. Some don't. And I don't, apparently." He shrugged. "You drew attention to yourself. By asking questions." He smiled. "By not following the rhythm." Then he handed me something, a small black card with a silver QR code. "What's this?" "Proof," he said, and walked away. I scanned it. It opened a hidden web page. No title, no logo, just a live camera feed. My house. Every room. Every angle. There were at least 10 different camera views. One of them showed me standing at my desk, right now. I slammed the laptop shut and unplugged the router. Then, through the dark screen reflection, I saw movement behind me. Someone standing outside the window. A flash of blue vest. Then gone. That night, I packed a bag. Laptop. Cash. Dog leash. I was done. As I reached the front door, I saw something taped to it. A new envelope. No HOA logo this time. Just my name. Inside was a photo. Of me. Sleeping again. But this time, I wasn't alone. In the picture, someone else was standing beside my bed. Face blurred. And in the bottom corner, that same red triangle symbol. I couldn't stay another minute. I ran to my truck. Started the engine. Every house light on the street turned on again. All at once. Neighbors came out, forming a line across the road. Smiling. I pressed the gas. But before I could move, Paul stepped in front of my truck, raised his hands. "Ethan," he shouted, "don't do it. If you leave, it only gets worse. Worse than this." I yelled back. He hesitated, then said something I'll never forget. "They don't let people leave." That was enough for me. I swerved onto the grass, shot past his mailbox, and sped out of the neighborhood. Didn't look back once. When I hit the main road, I finally breathed again. Freedom. But 5 miles later, my dashboard lit up. Engine failure. The truck stalled right there on the shoulder. And as it rolled to a stop, my phone buzzed. New text. Unknown number. You left during evaluation. Return home immediately. I threw the phone on the passenger seat. Stepped out of the truck. And that's when I heard it. A faint hum overhead. I looked up. A small black drone hovered above me. Camera blinking red. The same red as the word evaluation. It followed me. All the way to the gas station. I went inside, trembling. Asked the cashier if I could use his phone. He laughed. "Sure, man. But you might want to tell your neighborhood to chill. They've been calling here all day asking if you came by." That night, I checked into a cheap motel outside town. No Wi-Fi. No cameras. Just silence. But sometime after 2 a.m., I woke up to scratching at the door. Then a soft voice. "Mr. Cross, you forgot to finish your evaluation." I froze. Didn't move. Didn't breathe. A shadow slid under the door. And I saw it. Another envelope. Red letters again. Final notice. I didn't open it. I just sat there, listening to footsteps fade down the hall. And I realized, no matter where I went, they could find me. The HOA wasn't just a homeowners group anymore. It was a system, a network, and somehow, I'd become the glitch. If you discovered your entire neighborhood was part of a secret evaluation program, would you run or stay and try to expose it? Tell me in the comments. I want to know which side you'd be on. Eyes. I sat on the motel bed, staring at the envelope. It was thinner than the others, lighter, but somehow heavier than anything I'd ever held. The words "final notice" looked wet under the dim yellow light, like they were still drying. Scout, my dog, growled softly at the door. Hackles up. I whispered, "It's okay, boy." But even I didn't believe it. I picked up the envelope, turned it over. No return address. No logo this time. Just my name, written by hand. I slid a knife under the seal. Inside was a folded map of my neighborhood. Red X's marked certain houses. Mine circled in black. And at the bottom, in neat typed letters, return to 47B for debrief. 47B. The same address from the first letter. The one that was supposed to be mine. I stared at it for a long minute. Then at the clock, 3:14 a.m. Every reasonable part of me said don't go back. But curiosity has a way of feeling like gravity. I threw on a hoodie, loaded Scout into the truck, and started the engine. The drive back felt wrong. Too quiet. No traffic. No wind. When I turned onto my street, every light was off. Every house dark. Except one. 47B. The porch light glowed like it was waiting for me. I parked 2 houses away and walked the rest of the way on foot. Gravel crunching under my shoes. The front door was unlocked. Inside smelled like paint and lemon cleaner. No. Empty. Boxes stacked against the walls. No furniture. Just a folding table in the middle of the living room. And on it, a small laptop. Already open. The screen showed a single message. Welcome back, Ethan. I stepped closer. A video started playing automatically. Footage of me again. In the motel. Opening the envelope. Someone had filmed me there too. Then a distorted voice came through the speakers. Non-compliant subject returned voluntarily. Proceed to Phase 5. I whispered, Phase 5. Scout whimpered behind me. The lights flickered. Then the screen went black. That's when I heard a knock. From inside the house. Not the front door. The hallway. 3 slow knocks. I turned. Nothing there. Then a whisper. Right behind my ear. Do you want to know the truth now? I spun around. A woman stood in the doorway. Carla. She wasn't in her perfect blazer anymore. She looked exhausted. Hair messy. Eyes red. Carla, what is this? What are you doing? She sighed. You weren't supposed to be on the list, Ethan. You bought the wrong property. What list? The integration program, she said softly. The HOA isn't about homeowners anymore. It's a pilot project, behavioral control. They monitor how people follow rules, how they react when isolated. I shook my head. That's insane. She nodded. Yeah, but it works. The board's funded by a research firm. They call it community perfection. Then why me? Because you didn't follow the rhythm. Same phrase Paul had used. I stepped closer. Who runs it? She hesitated, then whispered, Weaver. And the people above him. Government, private. I don't even know anymore. A loud beep cut through her words. The laptop turned on again. A red banner filled the screen. Security breach. Carla's face went pale. They traced us, she said. Follow me. We ran out the back door into the alley. Scout barked. Headlights flashed at the end of the lane. Black SUV. No plates. Carla shoved a keycard into my hand. Clubhouse basement, she said. Room B-17. That's where the files are. What about you? She shook her head. I can't go back there. But you can. Before I could say anything, she pushed me toward my truck and yelled, Go! Then she ran the opposite way. The SUV sped after her. I didn't wait. I floored it toward the clubhouse. The entire neighborhood was waking up. Porch lights flickering like alarms. Sprinklers switching on all at once. When I reached the clubhouse, the gate was already open. I parked in the shadows and slipped inside. The hall smelled of bleach and printer toner. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. At the end of the corridor was a metal door marked Authorized Only. The keycard fit perfectly. The basement was colder than I expected. Rows of filing cabinets. Screens showing security feeds, my street, my yard, my face. And one big folder on the desk labeled Phase 5, Subject 47B. I opened it. Inside were dozens of printed reports. Behavioral logs. Psych evaluations. Oh mine. Subject displays moderate defiance, low group compliance, high stress tolerance. Recommendation: escalate to live observation. Live observation. That meant real-time surveillance. Maybe even experiments. Then I saw the last page. Termination scheduled, November 5th, 0400 hours. It was 3:58 a.m. The lights flickered again. Footsteps above. I grabbed the folder and ran for the stairs. Halfway up, someone stepped into view. Mr. Weaver. He looked calm, almost proud. "Leaving so soon?" he asked. "What the hell is this place, Weaver?" He smiled. "Control. Ethan. Order. People think freedom makes them happy, but it only makes them unpredictable. We're just fixing that. You're spying on families. Guiding them," he corrected. "Removing chaos before it spreads." He took a step closer. "You were supposed to help us test resistance levels. But you failed the empathy phase. I never signed up for this." "You bought the house," he said. "And that was enough." Behind him, alarms blared. Red lights pulsed along the ceiling. I used the distraction to shove him aside and sprint out the door. He shouted after me. "Running doesn't change the results, Ethan. We already have what we need." I burst outside into the cold dawn. Scout was waiting near the truck, tail low. We drove until the sun came up. Past the lake, past the highway, into open fields. I pulled over, breathing hard. Hands shaking. The folder sat on the passenger seat. Proof. Everything they'd done. Every lie. But when I opened it again, the pages were blank. All of them. White. Like they'd never been printed at all. I looked up at the rear-view mirror. A black SUV in the distance. Getting closer. I pressed the gas. And as we sped down the empty road, I realized something that chilled me to the bone. I hadn't told anyone where I was going. No one knew I had the folder. Yet they'd found me again. Maybe it wasn't the truck. Maybe it wasn't the cameras. Maybe it was me. If you discovered a secret experiment running your neighborhood, would you destroy the evidence to stay safe, or expose everything even if it meant they'd come for you? Tell me in the comments. I'm dying to know what you'd choose. Eyes. The sun was coming up, but it didn't feel like morning. It felt like surveillance. The air was too still. The road too empty. Even the birds weren't singing. Scout rested his head on my lap, eyes fixed on the mirror. The black SUV was still there, keeping distance, but never disappearing. I pulled off the highway into a gas station, hoping to lose them, or at least understand how they kept finding me. The cashier gave me a weird look when I walked in, like she already knew something. "You okay, sir?" she asked. I forced a smile. "Yeah, just a long night." She pointed to the corner of the counter. "You dropped this." I looked down. A small black tag, about the size of a quarter. It was blinking red. My stomach dropped. I grabbed it, ran outside, and checked under my truck. Nothing. Then I checked Scout's collar. And there it was. A tiny chip sewn into the inside lining. I ripped it out and threw it down the storm drain. Scout barked once, sharp and nervous. The SUV turned into the parking lot. I didn't wait. We sped off again, dirt spraying behind us. By the time I reached the next town over, the SUV was gone. Or maybe they just wanted me to think that. I stopped at a diner off the main road. Old neon sign, half the letters burned out. Inside smelled like burnt coffee and maple syrup. I sat in the corner booth, trying to breathe. The waitress poured me coffee and said, "You look like you saw a ghost, honey." I almost laughed. Something like that. When she walked away, I took out the folder again. Still blank. I flipped the pages one by one, hoping for ink. Nothing. But then, on the last page, a faint outline appeared under the sunlight, like invisible ink heating up. I tilted it toward the window, and slowly, words began to show. If you're reading this, it means the field test failed. The subject resisted integration. Initiate fallback procedure. Psychological reset. I whispered the words out loud. Psychological reset. And then I remembered something Carla had said. About the integration program. Behavioral control. Monitoring reactions. What if the reset wasn't about deleting data? What if it was about deleting me? Scout whined quietly. He could sense it too. Suddenly, the radio in my truck turned on by itself. Even though the keys weren't in the ignition. Static. Then a voice. Weaver's voice. Ethan, you're making this harder than it needs to be. I froze. How are you doing this? I said out loud. Even though I knew he couldn't hear me, or maybe he could. You're far from home, the voice continued. But you can still come back. All you have to do is comply. I clenched my fists. I'm done complying. The static grew louder. Then the voice changed. Now it was Carla's voice. Ethan, listen to me. They can track you through your memories. They can use your responses to recreate your location. You have to stop thinking about them. The radio clicked off. I stared at it in silence. How do you stop thinking about something that's hunting you? That night, I checked into another motel. This one even smaller. The kind of place with peeling wallpaper and vending machines older than me. I tried to sleep. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Weaver's face. Smiling. Patient. Waiting. At 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of water running. The bathroom sink. I got up, heart pounding. Turned the light on. The faucet was on full blast. And written on the fogged mirror were the words, "You left the lights on." I stumbled back. Scout barked from the bed. Then I saw the shadow under the door. Feet. Someone standing there. I yanked the door open. Empty hallway. But down at the far end. The exit sign flickered. And for just a second, I saw a reflection in the glass door. Carla. She mouthed one word. Run. I grabbed my keys and bolted out the back door. Drove until dawn again. Every time I looked at the dashboard clock, it showed the same time, 3 a.m. Didn't matter how far I went. The time didn't move. The sky didn't brighten. I checked my phone. No signal. No GPS. Just one notification blinking on the screen. HOA reminder. Community meeting tomorrow. Mandatory attendance. I slammed the phone against the dashboard. It didn't even crack. That's when I realized something awful. The car wasn't moving. The scenery outside looked like it was, but the road lines never changed. Like I was stuck in some kind of loop. I turned off the ignition. Silence. No wind. No insects. No sound at all. Then a familiar voice from behind me. You can't drive away from yourself, Ethan. I turned around. Weaver was sitting in the back seat. No door had opened. No window had moved. He leaned forward, calm as ever. You think this is a motel, a car, a road, he said. But it's all part of the test. We needed to see how long you'd resist. I shook my head. This isn't real. He smiled. Reality's just majority agreement, Ethan. And right now, you're outvoted. I reached for the door handle, but it wouldn't move. Then I looked down. The folder was glowing faintly again. The words had changed. Subject unstable. Initiate psychological reset. Phase complete. The world outside started to fade. Colors draining like water. I screamed. No. You're not erasing me. Weaver just whispered. We already did. The next thing I remember was waking up. In my bed. My rail bed. Sunlight pouring through the window. Scout sleeping peacefully beside me. For a second, everything felt normal. Then I saw it. On my front porch. A white envelope. My name written by hand. And on the back, stamped in red. Welcome to the neighborhood. Reset successful. I didn't open it this time. I just sat there on the edge of my bed, holding the letter, feeling like I'd already read it before. Maybe I had. Maybe I never left. If you woke up and found out your whole escape was just part of the experiment, would you open that letter to see the truth, or burn it without ever knowing? Fire. Tell me what you'd do in the comments. I stared at the letter on the porch for a long time. Long enough for the sunlight to change color. Long enough for the quiet to feel wrong. Scout barked once, then looked at me like he was waiting for permission. Not this time, I whispered. I wasn't opening another letter. Not again. Everything looked normal. Too normal. The lawn was perfectly trimmed. Mailbox repainted. HOA approved beige on every house. Neighbors waved when they saw me. Smiling. Friendly. But their eyes didn't blink in sync with their smiles. Something about it all felt preloaded. Like the world had been rebuilt from memory, but not quite right. Mrs. Turner from next door walked by with her tiny dog. "Morning, Ethan," she said, cheerful as ever. "You coming to the HOA barbecue tonight?" I hesitated. "There's a barbecue?" She laughed. "Oh, honey, it's mandatory. Didn't you read your letter?" My heart dropped. I forced a grin. "Yeah. Must have slipped my mind." She leaned closer. Her perfume was sweet. Too sweet. "You should come," she whispered. "Mr. Weaver hates when people skip welcomes." Then she smiled again, and walked away like nothing happened. When I stepped inside, I realized the house smelled like fresh paint. Like it had been redone. I opened a drawer in the kitchen. Perfectly organized. Labeled containers. Alphabetized spices. I never did that. Then I found something even stranger. A new framed photo on the counter. It was me, standing at the last HOA meeting, smiling beside Weaver. Except I'd never been there. Scout started barking again, low and sharp, facing the hallway. I followed his gaze. At the end of the hall, the attic door was open. It had been sealed since I moved in. Now a small rope ladder hung down, swaying gently. I grabbed a flashlight and climbed up. Dust floated in the air like tiny ghosts. There were boxes, stacks of files, old cameras, and in the middle, a projector aimed at a white sheet. I pressed the button. The film flickered to life. Footage of my house, my yard, me. Clips of me walking the dog, checking mail, sleeping, all from different angles. Then the audio kicked in. Weaver's voice again. Observation log continues. Subject appears unaware of prior loops. Behavioral restoration at 83%. Restoration. I whispered it out loud. He didn't say reset. He said restoration. Like they were rebuilding me, piece by piece. I searched the boxes and found others labeled with numbers. 46A, 47A, 47B. Mine. Inside were more photos. More faces. Same neighborhood. Different people. All smiling in the same way. Like clones wearing human skins. On the last page of one file was a photo of Carla. Only she looked different. Younger. Eyes blank. Caption said, "Integration successful." A sharp noise came from downstairs. Scout barking wildly. I rushed down the ladder. The letter on the porch was gone. In its place, a new one. This one was black. I picked it up carefully. No name. No address. Just the HOA logo embossed in silver. I opened it before I could stop myself. Inside was a single note. "You were never supposed to remember this version." And under it, a photo of me holding that exact letter. Everything inside me froze. Someone had already seen this moment before I lived it. I ran outside. The street was empty, but the air shimmered slightly, like heat rising off asphalt, only it wasn't hot. And then, for a second, the houses flickered. Literally flickered. Walls bending. Colors glitching. Like the neighborhood was a hologram with bad connection. I stumbled backward, heart pounding. Scout barked so loud it echoed. Then I heard footsteps behind me. Carla. But not the real Carla. Her eyes were glowing faintly, her movements too smooth. "Ethan," she said softly, "you're not supposed to be here." "What version are you?" asked. She smiled, almost sadly. "The last stable one, before they wiped me too many times." "What is this place?" She looked around. "This isn't the neighborhood, Ethan. It's a simulation built from your memories. They've been testing different versions of you." I felt dizzy. "Why me?" "Because you resisted the HOA authority longer than any subject. They couldn't break your defiance, so they replicated it." "I don't understand." "You're not supposed to." She reached into her pocket and handed me a small chip. "A data drive. Everything you need to know is in here. But if you access it..." "What happens?" She stepped closer. "You'll see what's outside the neighborhood. And once you do, you can't go back." She turned to leave. I grabbed her arm. "What happens to you?" She smiled weakly. "I already left once." Then she faded, like smoke caught in sunlight. Gone. I stared at the chip in my hand. It pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. Then the HOA intercom speakers clicked on. The ones built into every house. Weaver's voice filled the entire street. "Residents of Maple Grove, tonight's community barbecue is mandatory. Attendance ensures your compliance rating remains satisfactory." His voice echoed over the flickering lawns. And in that moment I realized. The barbecue wasn't a party. It was a recall. That night, I stood at my window watching neighbors gather on the cul-de-sac. Laughter too uniform. Movements too perfect. Weaver stood in the center under a string of lights, holding a clipboard. He raised his head and looked straight at my window. Then he smiled and spoke into his mic. "Every house is accounted for, except one." Scout started growling. I grabbed the data chip, slipped it into my pocket, and whispered, "Not tonight." I turned off every light in the house, opened the back door, and walked into the woods behind the neighborhood. The last thing I heard over the speakers was Weaver's voice, calm as ever. "Phase 6 initiated. Subject outside perimeter." And then the streetlights flickered one last time, before everything went black. If you found out your entire neighborhood was just a simulation, would you try to escape into the unknown, or stay inside the perfect lie forever? Skull. Tell me in the comments. I really want to know what you'd do if the HOA controlled reality itself. The woods were darker than I remembered. Too quiet. Too still. Every step I took felt like it didn't echo right. Like the ground was pretending to be real. Scout stayed close, ears low, tail stiff. He could feel it too. Behind us, faint music drifted from the neighborhood. Laughter. Grilling sounds. Perfect happiness. Fake happiness. I kept walking. Branches cracking underfoot. Until the air started to change. The smell of grass faded, replaced by something sharp, metallic. The trees looked wrong, their shapes repeating every few yards, like a video loop. Then I saw it. A fence. Tall. Silver. Buzzing with low electric hums. At the top, a sign. Property of Maple Grove Research Division. I whispered. So it was real. There was a keypad on the gate, and right next to it, a small slot. The perfect size for the chip Carla gave me. I hesitated, then slid it in. The gate clicked, and slowly began to open. Scout barked once, like a warning, but it was too late to turn back. On the other side was not more forest. It was a warehouse, a massive, silent building surrounded by darkness. Inside, rows of glowing pods lined the walls, each one with a person inside. Peaceful faces. Every single one of them looked familiar. Neighbors, board members, even Carla, all asleep. Each pod labeled with an address. 47A, 47B, 47C. Mine was in the corner. I walked toward it, heart pounding. There I was, floating inside clear liquid. Eyes closed, connected to wires, perfectly still. My stomach turned cold. If that was me, then who was I right now? The speakers crackled overhead. Weaver's voice again. "Welcome home, Ethan. I was hoping you'd find it." I looked around. Couldn't see him. "Why?" I shouted. "Why all this?" His voice echoed calmly. "Because free will makes chaos. People want control, but they don't know what to do with it. So we built something better. A perfect world. No rebellion, no fear, no pain." He paused. "Just peace." I laughed, shaking. "Peace? You're drugging people in tanks." He sighed. "Not drugged, Ethan. Preserved. Living their best version forever inside their own neighborhood." I looked back at my own pod. He was right about one thing. That version of me looked content, peaceful, unaware. Then Weaver stepped out from the shadows. His suit spotless. Not a single wrinkle. "You were our anomaly," he said. "The only subject who woke up during simulation. But even anomalies serve purpose." He pointed to my pod. "You can go back, Ethan. We can make you forget. You'll wake up tomorrow, walk your dog, wave to your neighbors. And this will all feel like a dream." He smiled softly. "Wouldn't that be easier?" I looked at the pods again. Dozens of people, living fake perfect lives, trapped forever. Then I looked at Scout, tail wagging slightly, still waiting for my choice. I took a step toward Weaver. He nodded. "Good. That's the right choice." Then I whispered, "You're right," and shoved the chip into the control panel beside him. Sparks burst from the screen. Electricity arced through the room. Every pod started flashing red. Alarms blaring. Weaver screamed. "What did you do?" I shouted over the noise. "I'm giving them their freedom." The pods cracked open. Steam poured out. People gasped awake. Coughing, crying, confused. Carla fell to her knees, eyes wide. Finally, aware. Weaver tried to grab me. But Scout lunged, biting his arm. He screamed. And disappeared. Literally blinked out of existence. Like he'd never been there. The lights dimmed. The ground trembled. Carla looked at me. "What happens now?" I didn't know. Outside the broken walls, I saw light. Real sunlight. Not simulation glow. We stepped out together. Dozens of others following. The air felt different out there. Raw. Heavy. Alive. And for the first time, I didn't feel watched. But as we walked further, I saw more buildings in the distance. Dozens of them. Identical warehouses. Each one labeled with different community names. Pine Ridge HOA. Sunny Vale Estates. Willow Creek Residences. Each one humming quietly. Each one holding more pods. Hundreds. Maybe thousands. Carla whispered. "They're everywhere." And then we both saw it. A massive digital billboard rising above the skyline. Flashing the HOA logo. And underneath it, Community Perfection, Expansion Phase Approved. My heart stopped. We hadn't ended it. We just stepped outside one simulation. Into another. Scout whined softly beside me, looking up at the glowing sign. I took a deep breath. The wind was real. The fear was real. Maybe that's all that mattered. That night, we camped near a ridge, watching the warehouses flicker like sleeping giants. Carla asked quietly, "Do you think we'll ever be free?" I looked down at the folder still in my hands. Its pages blank again. I smiled sadly. "Maybe freedom isn't about escaping the HOA." I said slowly, "Maybe it's about remembering it exists." Somewhere behind us, a faint sound echoed through the woods. A familiar voice on a speaker. "Welcome, new residents. Please remember, compliance ensures happiness." Carla looked at me, eyes wide. "Ethan, do you hear that?" I nodded. "Yeah." And whispered, "I think we're not done yet." If you escaped your neighborhood only to find thousands more just like it, would you keep running, or stay and fight the system that built them? Collision. Comment your answer below, because maybe, just maybe, they're watching your neighborhood 2 eyes.